Hey everyone, this is Chris. Welcome back to the channel, and this is your daily Uncut news. So I want to start with this, and the question is, if you're out in the car market searching for a car, are you going full electric or are you considering hybrid? As it turns out, it seems like people are still choosing the hybrids and leaving behind the internal combustions. The electric ones I think people want, but my guess is likely they're just too expensive. This is a thing that's really quite interesting. So it's basically how many days does a car sit on the lot? So as of now, I'll read this to you guys. U.S. car buyers on average have been snapping up hybrids within just 12 days from their arrival on dealership lots this year through August, compared to 16 days for EVs and 23 days for internal combustion vehicles. So the basic gist of it is like how long does it take to sell a car, and the hybrids are the ones that are selling the best. So my feeling is like people really would like to get electric, but it's just the cost is probably prohibitive. So you might as well just sort of do the happy medium, the best sort of price to reward or price to quality ratio. And this is where I think Tesla's going to run into some problems because, as you guys may or may not know, their cheapest model is actually their best seller. And there's going to be a lot of competition in that segment. The other thing, too, that's been happening is essentially China is a big part of Tesla's business. And you won't ever see Tesla or Elon saying bad things about China because, you know what, they need money because you want to sell cars. And in fact, it's quite interesting if you take a look at this. And I get it, guys. I really get it. There's a lot of people out there that are pumping Tesla all the time, or there's people pumping NIO or Li Auto, these kind of things. But these are real numbers here. This is the car sales, and you can see BYD, that's the Warren Buffett one, although he has been selling some of that stock that was in the news recently, but is the leader of car sales. But there's a lot of brands over there that we don't even know about. I mean, I don't even know all these brands, to be honest, and I lived in China. But a lot of these are new, and a lot of them are coming and going, so you just don't know what's going on. But the thing that sticks out though is that Tesla is not the leader in China, and obviously they'd want to be because it is a big market. But the economy of China is slowing, as well as the economy all around the world. So I think this is an interesting one because gas prices are high, right? And the question is, people's pocketbook, they're going to weigh, okay, I want to go electric, not necessarily because I'm a green person, I won't care about clean air, because let's be real, it's all about money. I want to go electric because I want to save money on gas. But one of the things that we've talked about on the channel before, I think is an interesting thing, is that if we do all eventually do go electric, someone mentioned in comments that there could still be hidden taxes that we don't know about because, say, for example, a car has an odometer, they can track your mileage and theoretically upload your mileage every day to the government, and then they'll tax you on how much you drive. That is a real thing, right? Because these days the gas tax, right, when you go to the gas station, it pays for the roads and stuff like that, the roads that you drive on. And so if you remove oil from our economy in the USA, who's going to pay for the gas, right? So this is something where I think this is going to be a really what's the right word to say? I guess tricky maze to negotiate as we go through how to legislate taxes and essentially road use when we go to electric vehicles, and also too we may see a spike in electricity, which could be a thing. So keep an eye on this stuff, and I just wanted to share this with you. I think it's an interesting topic. Also too is Burger King. Yeah, we don't talk about Burger King that much on this channel, but it's actually quite funny because I didn't realize this, but did you guys know this? They're not the number 2 burger place anymore. I just assumed that they were, but it shows you what I know about burgers. So McDonald's is the leader, right? And Burger King's like, yo, we want to get back to at least our number 2 spot. I don't think they're ever going to catch McDonald's, but you never know. But evidently, this was saying that Wendy's is now number 3. And I guess Chick-fil-A is gaining popularity. So Burger King is kind of, odd restaurant out, which is interesting. And what happened was, and I'll read this to you guys, they had this new chicken sandwich thing. I haven't tried it. I don't work for Burger King of that nature, but it's interesting. Let me read it to you. So Burger King also struggled with the Cheese King sandwich. This is like they spent a whole bunch of money to try to compete with basically Popeyes and Chick-fil-A. They spent, what is this? 313 billion, geez. A crispy chicken menu item launches roughly 313 billion US fast food industry raised to compete with fast-selling versions of Chick-fil-A and Popeyes. Burger King aimed to differentiate its chicken sandwich by having restaurant employees hand bread each breast patty, but despite heavy marketing and franchisees investing the $1,000 to equip restaurants with breading stations, it didn't catch on, executives franchise said. So the idea was that these things were actually too difficult to make. They spent a bunch of money on it, but when you increase the complexity of it, it sort of dampens your business model, right? Because your business model is fast food. I think this is an interesting one because I'm just telling you guys, like my wife and I, we like Chick-fil-A. I don't look for Chick-fil-A either, but we like Chick-fil-A compared to these types of restaurants. And McDonald's is tough to beat, right? They're everywhere. So how you guys, I think and this is kind of a fun business, just exercise is like, you got to either go with convenience by having the best location, or would you, go for say the best flavor, but does that slow down your ability to produce fast food? But it is a competitive business out there, and like I said, I didn't realize Burger King was losing out to the others, but evidently Wendy's is gaining. So I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on that one. Are you McDonald's, Wendy's, or Burger King, or do you just like forget that? I'm not about burgers, all about Chick-fil-A. I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on that one. Also, too, in regards to the Russia thing, I'm sure you guys know we've talked about this. The bridge fire and the bridge explosion has been really the main story for a while. And actually, Putin is calling a meeting on Monday. And the basic gist of it is he's going to talk with the generals and say, "Hey, what's going on? Who did this thing?" What they're saying is the official statement is like they're blaming Ukraine. Ukraine hasn't really made a statement on this at all, so it's who knows. I don't know. I find it odd that Ukraine wouldn't come out if Ukraine was behind it. I don't know why they wouldn't say, "Hey, we're behind it." So that part I find a bit odd. But Russia's blaming Ukraine. For all we know, it could be Ukraine or it could be a false flag operation. The basic gist would be that Russia would instigate an attack on itself essentially, and then say, "Hey, see, look at what Ukraine's doing," and that would give an excuse to escalate the war. But I don't know. I really don't, guys. And I'd love to hear your opinion on this one. But I think the part of that is unusual about the story is that Ukraine's not claiming it. In terms of what caused it, I was reading this here, and I'll read it for you guys here. They're saying it could be a truck bomb, it could be underwater attack, or it could be some sort of special forces. It could be like a drone. It could be multiple things. No one knows for sure. And this has only been, I think, a couple of days now. So we'll get more details as we follow, and I'll try to keep you guys updated. We looked at this map before. So basically, how you read this is the red areas are the Russian-controlled areas, and then the yellow areas are the areas where Ukraine is trying to reclaim. So the southern part where the bridge is, that is a sort of symbolic, and then also to realistically, it's a logistics problem. And one of the things that someone mentioned in comments, and I fully agree. Come winter, it could get a lot worse for the Russian troops, because remember, part of winning a war is shipping supplies, right? Your food, your ammunition, your fuel. It's going to become much more difficult in winter. And, do troops want to fight in the winter? My personal opinion is just go home, be with your families. I think everyone would benefit from that. So, and I do mean that sincerely. I just don't want anyone fighting anywhere. So, the issue is right now, though, is that, Putin just seems to be dragging this out. And we're going to be facing a real energy crisis this winter, especially in Europe. And people watching this Europe, you may know about this already. Macron actually gave this speech. It's really interesting because he's wearing a turtleneck and sort of symbolic of like, hey, we're going to, not be wearing neckties and we're wearing sweaters because it's going to be cold. And what they're doing in France actually to sort of combat an energy crisis is actually turning the lights off early in the cities, right? So you're turning off the Eiffel Tower, turning off all these shopping malls, turning off lights. And the other thing too, they're encouraging people to essentially take warm showers. They're also encouraging people to not use your heating so much, meaning that instead of having your house 80 degrees, just keep it at 60 degrees, that kind of thing, really cutting back on energy because it's going to be expensive and there's not that much to go around. So this is really an interesting thing. Now they're not full-heartedly, going on hey, we're going to cut everything because they're still going to have Christmas. Yes, kids, there still will be a Christmas. It's something we'll do 7 weeks of, or I should say 6 weeks of Christmas lights, but not 7 weeks. So they're cutting off a week off your Christmas lights essentially. But there still will be a Christmas, but it is dampening. And I think this is sort of a example of how in modern society there's some things we can give up, but some things we can't. And in fact, just the reality is if we really just wanted to, stop using energy, we would just cancel Christmas in the terms of not having Christmas lights, but they're still doing that kind of stuff in Europe. I'd love to you guys hear your thoughts on that thing, but I think things will get real ugly in Europe in terms of energy prices. That is a real thing. In terms of energy prices and stuff like that, Politics in USA are going to be talking about this. I'm sure you guys know. And it's interesting because for a long time I was saying basically I think the Republicans are going to win and going to be a shoe-in in the midterms. It was interesting. It may not necessarily be the case, and some people wrote about this in the comments. I mean, this is why you have an election. You vote, right? And I full-heartedly believe in democracy and people should vote. And so the basic argument, I'll read to you guys. It's really funny because it could be closer than we think. So I still give favor to Republicans. Because I think, if energy prices are spiking, and this is also due to OPEC cutting, and Biden and the team were pretty upset about that because I think they made a deal with OPEC, and evidently the deal didn't quite go as expected. But let's read this. This is the sort of arguments that each party is making. It's pretty interesting. So Republicans have pounded voters with messages about the lackluster economy, frightening crime, rising inflation, and unpopular President Joe Biden, right? And then on the other side, Democrats have countered by warning about stripping away abortion rights, the specter of Donald Trump's allies returning to power, and both parties are tailoring the messages to reach suburban voters, especially women, who are seen as the most prized, persuadable bloc in the polarized electorate. So basically, there's certain groups that are just going to vote the way they want to vote, no matter what you say. So it doesn't matter, right? And so what you do is you try to appeal to voters who may change affiliations or are undecided. And those are the choices you have. It's actually this ex person really stated it really well. So the messages, there's two messages you got to think of. So the Democrats, their message is, if you elect the Republicans, the sky may fall. But then the Republican message is, see, the sky is falling all because of Joe Biden's bad economy. The increase in price at grocery store is everyday fact of life. So, when you compare it to this basic message, right? Vote Republicans and the sky is going to fall, or if you, the other one is, if you vote with Democrats, you're going to stick with a bad economy and grocery store high prices, stuff like that. I think the Republicans have an easier message to make, but we'll see come election, because this is real. This is sort of why what we discussed in the comments is, will the Roe versus Wade essentially overturn? Will that galvanize a lot of Democrat voters? And this is just a real thing. I'm just sharing my opinion. I was fine the way that the law was. Most of the country was fine with that. And they changed it. The Supreme Court did that. So we'll see if voters, if that galvanizes them to come out and show to the polls. So love to hear you guys' thoughts on that one. And man, I get so tired of talking about abortion, but honestly I do. And it's been a issue for years. But like I said, my opinion was fine the way that it was. And, it's a tricky issue because, the one basic argument is like, well, if you don't want to do it, don't do it. And if you want to do it, do it. And some people say, well, but it involves another life. So that's where the debate actually hinges on. One very clear thing I'll say on this is that for those of people who do want to cut abortion rights, the basic thing I'll say is, are you willing to pay for it, and are you willing to take care of said children? And I think that's a very important point, because we are talking about money here. And there's certainly money and social ramifications involved in that. So do be aware of those kind of things, and then get it, guys. I think you guys already know the arguments of that stuff, but we'll see what happens at the polls. And I was saying that, majority for years were fine with the way the law was, but that was a majority, and this is a democracy. So we'll vote on it, and we'll see what happens. Going around the world, this is kind of interesting issue, especially for those of you fans of BTS. The members might have to join the military, basically because, if you guys know, so I'm in Korea, and I can just tell you, I'm not Korean, I'm American, but the Korean males are all required to join the military unless you're serving the country. So, like, for example, let's say you're an Olympic athlete and you're training to, essentially you're serving a country in a different way, and you don't want to take 2 years of say ice, speed skating, or Koreans are really good at archery or shooting and things like this nature. They're really good at these things, and they're also really good at having pop bands. And one of the issues is the government's trying to think of, like, should we have a special exemption for pop stars? And the basic gist of it is that, if you guys know BTS, they're worth a heck of a lot of money. I mean, they're essentially the number one singing group in the world, and if you sort of break up the band, essentially, you're costing the nation money. So this is a very, very interesting thing the government has to decide, is like, do we force these people to join the military like everyone else? Or do we say, you know what, they're worth so much money to us, let them keep singing and let the party keep going. So we'll see. This has been a discussion, though, as they're starting to get up there in age. Also, too, in Asia, which is quite interesting. So where we live, we're in Busan. and Busan, Korea, that is. And so you'll see gold things, like gold exchanges around Seoul and stuff like that, quite a lot. And as it turns out, I guess people in Asia are buying gold these days. And the general gist of it is people are worried about currency. I've talked to you guys about this stuff on the channel a lot. The dollar is really, really strong. And if you want to travel or go abroad, now's the time. Although I guess, today, as we talked about, like if you go to France, you might be disappointed if the Eiffel Tower is dark, earlier than you had expected. But just the dollar's so strong, and some of these places, they're just worried about the currency collapse. So we may or may not have a currency crisis in Asia. Some people are betting on that, so they're picking up a bunch of gold. I myself don't just go out and just buy gold. I guess vests and necklaces. It's funny, like you can just like put your whole body in gold if you really wanted to. But I never know what to make of gold, to be honest. So don't ask me. I just don't know. One thing I always find strange though, and this is real, is I don't know what it is, but you'll see a lot of like right-leaning people in the USA on TV, and this is like a Fox News kind of thing. Many of their top announcers will work for gold companies and be pushing gold. I'm sure it's a real thing. And if you guys ever watch Fox, you'll know you've seen these commercials, and I don't really get the connection there. So if anyone can explain that to me, I just don't know. But I do know gold has some value, but like I said, I don't really know. And then there's even advertisements on YouTube, and you guys ever seen that guy? Is like he's got like an American flag behind him and like a baseball hat with the American flag, and he's pushing gold as well. So I don't know, but I was gonna say I guess the gold pumpers are not alone. There are also gold pumpers here in Asia, but I'm here and I don't get it either. So who knows? If you guys have any thoughts on that, I'd love to hear that. Also, too, this was actually a really interesting one, and this affects a lot of people, myself included. Fall allergies are actually getting longer, which I didn't know that. And in fact, basically has to do with global warming and the changing weather. Let me read this to you guys. It's quite interesting. So here it is. What a lot of people don't realize is that allergy seasons have almost doubled in length, gotten more intense because of climate change. And this is coming from the president of the Asthma and Allergy Foundation, Kenneth Mendez. And the reason is higher carbon dioxide emissions spur plants to release larger amounts of pollen. That's why allergies feel a lot worse. So essentially, we're connecting carbon dioxide emission to plants, and hence release more pollen, as you can see. As temperatures stay warmer for longer periods of time, and the first frost happens later and later, plants like the raspberry have more time to grow and release allergens. Cities tend to have higher temperatures than suburban or rural areas, and as a result of the urban heat island effect, he said, crammed buildings and infrastructures absorb and retain the sun's heat, making it much more severe degrees hotter in urban areas during the day. One of the things that I think was interesting too is they're offering recommendations, which I'm sure you guys know, but it's worth reiterating because it's always good to remember these things. Basically, wear sunglasses outside. Cover yourself. Also, too, it's not crazy, and this is just from my recommendation. I actually wear a mask outside sometimes if I feel like allergies are really tough because, literally cover your nose, cover your mouth. You're not going to be breathing the stuff that you're allergic to. Always take showers and stuff when you go home. Take showers before you go to sleep. You got to keep yourself clean because you don't want to be sleeping in that pollen. The other one, too, which is interesting that they mentioned, which it didn't occur to me, but it's totally true, especially for Americans, is if you have pets, you want to keep your pet out of your bedroom because like your pet's running around in the pollen all day and then they're going to go roll around in your bed and whatever. And it's sort of something that's, pollen's invisible essentially, but it's something that certainly do be aware, and also to vacuum all the time. One thing is too, is they mentioned air filters is another thing. And I'm just thinking how technology can combat these things. And in our household, true story, and I don't work for these companies either, we actually have a robot vacuum. That thing is the spectacular device ever created, conceived by mankind. It's a robot vacuum. And it's funny because when we came to Korea, we got our second robot vacuum, and it works better than the first one. So I think technology like really improved on navigation. So I guess this is a tip to the hat, is how you say it. But for those testables out there, I was talking about self-driving and stuff like that. In terms of like your house and stationary objects and navigating furniture, and these things can like do really, really well. And it's good because it just vacuums up every day. And then the other one is we actually have a air cleaner in the house, electronic one. It just turns on every now and then when it shows like air quality is a certain thing. And it's interesting because in the USA for whatever reason, and another thing, it's the same as like the gold thing. I don't know why people on Fox News are pumping gold all the time. I don't know why. And then the other one is the air quality thing. It's interesting because in USA people don't talk about it that much, and there's some people that just flat out deny it. But it's weird to me, and the reason why I say that, when you live in Asia, and I'm telling you, I live in Korea, it's a very real thing, especially when the dirty air comes in from China because they have a lot of factories over there and they're tearing down trees. And if you live in Korea, you have no control of what like people over in China and factories are doing. You don't. And so it doesn't matter how much the Koreans complain, the China can do whatever they want. And so as a result, pretty much everyone here in Korea is forced to buy air quality filters. And so they're hot commodities. Almost everyone has them in their house. A lot of these things are built into the house. You have like a central air cleaner thing, plus you have like a little portable ones. So we have both actually, but the portable ones are a little bit better, is what people say. They're easier to clean and maintain and stuff like that. But it is a real thing. And I'd be curious if Americans, if you guys anyways have any of these things, but I'd recommend it for sure, especially if you have allergies. They're I don't work for the air quality, devices or whatever. So and there's multiple brands out there, so I'm not telling you which brand to get. So like I said, I'm just telling you just a general advice. Having a robot vacuum and an air cleaner is just part of modern life these days, and especially if you have allergies. So I just want to bring that up. Also, too, there's a couple last things. We've had these crazy things going on social media. One is Kanye saying stupid Kanye West stuff like he always does. I never understand the appeal of this guy. I don't really like his music. I think he's a bit crazy, and so evidently people still like him. Maybe because they do like it that he's crazy. But brands are cutting him off. Like Adidas we talked about. It was like a couple days ago. Adidas is cutting ties. He cut ties with the Gap. I mean, this is how much money this guy gets from sponsorships. And then I guess they kicked him off Facebook, Instagram for saying just basically crazy stuff. And maybe he'll be on Twitter, and Elon Musk will be buddies with him. But it just reminds me of like how ridiculous our world is, and sometimes I feel like we're getting dumber, and I do mean that in a sincere way, because I was seeing this and I'm just like, what are kids doing? So I was a kid once, I really was, and I was stupid as a kid, I really was, but I don't know. I mean, I wasn't this stupid. I mean, really. So basically, there was this stupid thing where people were spreading this thing on social media that I guess we were all grinding up porcelain plates and then like snorting it. It turned out to be a complete hoax, but the I know it's really dumb, right? But the deal is that we live in a world where like people are like, hey, climb up milk crates and see what happens, or eat laundry detergent and see what happens, and that's kind of what our social media is devolving into. Is like who can do the stupidest thing first, the loudest, and the most. And this is sort of why I just, it's funny, it's been a theme the last, I don't know, couple of weeks or so. I just keep saying, as we go into recession, the divide between rich and poor is going to increase, and the divide between essentially, educated and uneducated is going to increase too. I keep saying that because when I see this kind of porcelain thing, I'm just like, what kind of morons are doing this stuff or believing it? So, but again, this is a hoax. Don't do it. It is not a real challenge. No one's grinding up any porcelain plates. Don't do it. And I can't even believe I even have to say this. So that's the world that we live in. So anyway, love to hear you guys' thoughts on this stuff. Love to hear all the comments, and do appreciate it. And thank you for your time. And this has been your daily Uncut News.